Welcome back, everybody, to the 5th episode of the Power of Choice series. I'll be honest, this episode I have been toying around. I feel like I've had downloads left and right on what to really theme this episode around, because I've touched on community, we've touched on my spiritual journey and choosing your own spiritual journey. We've talked about health and wellness and how that is a choice. We talked about boundaries and how that is a choice, and other things have been coming up around so many different areas of your life, your financials, your I don't even know how to list it all, but to really come down to it, and what I want to focus on this episode, because it encompasses so much, and that's love. The choice to love, the choice to choose love when responding, to choose the love when you're acting, to choose love beyond many things. And to be honest, I think we've heard this in many different areas in our lives about how when you choose love, when you choose to follow your heart and choose the route of love, how we communicate, how we act on things is so different than if we were choosing to come from a place of fear or come from a place of stress or frustration. And I'll be honest, even in my own life, there's been a few things coming up, and so minor things, to be honest, but where my initial reaction has been maybe reading a simple text and getting so frustrated and stressing about it, and honestly getting a little fiery, to be completely honest. I don't know, there's been this fire in me that wants to snap and burn when I get certain messages. I have had to pause and allow myself to feel those feelings, but then think about the idea, well, what if I choose to act on this, to respond to this out of a place of love, not lack, not frustration, not stress? And it's a very important choice to make, and not one that I think we think about a lot of times, unless you've been in the personal development, really self-development world, and you've read tons of books and do the things. But I challenge you right now to pause for one moment and think about maybe the most recent thing that happened where you got stressed, where you were frustrated, where your anxiety may have spiked. You were basically in a negative headspace because of someone else or something else happened. And think about, how did you respond, or how did you act after that? And where did that come from? And I am not a psychologist. I am not a therapist. I, quote unquote, haven't gone through life coach training, all those things. And I've learned a lot. I've done a lot of work on myself. And one of those things has been the idea to turn inwards and come from a place of love when you respond. It doesn't mean that you have to be a people pleaser. It doesn't mean that you have to make everyone else happy and do what everybody else wants you to do and come from this beating around the bush place. Trust me, I was that person. I have been that person. Depending on the situation, I think I still have that person that creeps out in me. And I also have learned, how can you be bold and be audacious, kind of like I talked about last week's episode with my takeaways from Powerhouse. How can you do those things but come from the place of love? And what that requires is a pause. It requires you to take a moment. It requires you to honestly strip away, feel the emotions. I will never tell you, ever tell you that you need to not feel frustrated and not feel stressed, because I had many parts of my life where it's you beat that down and you hide it and you tuck it away, and then it comes bubbling up later on. No, you need to feel those things, but express them in a private way. Express them in a safe space, with people you trust, and don't immediately respond or act on whatever the situation is, or the challenge or message, whatever it is that's coming through, and feel it. And then turn inwards, though. And how can you respond to it? How can you act from a place of love, from care, from empathy maybe, or understanding? And again, it doesn't mean beating around the bush or people pleasing, but it means being able to stay true to you and coming across courageously, with what you need to say, but not from a place of being pissed off and not from a place of absolutely stressed and everything, and allowing the love to bubble up and just be okay with that. And in some instances, when you're coming from a place of love, it may not be reacting at all. Because a lot of that's what it is. It's the reaction that we have from it. Sometimes it's not saying anything and letting yourself feel it and then understanding that they didn't mean it that way. I'm actually in the middle of reading Almost 30. So it's Krista and Lindsay, who host the Almost 30 podcast. Krista was speaking on stage at Powerhouse, and it's all about your Saturn return. Whether you're currently going through it, about to go through it, or you've already gone through it, it's a great way to reflect. And actually, I think it was yesterday, I was reading in the book, and one of the things she talked about are kind of those thoughts and beliefs that come up when especially we get frustrated and stressed, and how you can strip away those emotions and then just see it for what it is. So if you receive that text message, understand that maybe how you interpret it, how you perceive it, is not per se how they were coming across. Like, maybe they're not having a great day. Maybe it's a really full week for them. Maybe they just didn't add the extra punctuation to make it sound more exciting, and they just put a period at the end because they weren't thinking of it and they were running around doing errands or something. But stripping away the emotions from it to just see it as it is. And it's hard to do because that's not how we have grown up. It's not how we've been, I don't want to say trained, but raised and trained, gotten used to. It's not in our habits to react in that way and strip away the emotions because our mind likes to take over. But I think sometimes we can drop out of the mind and into our body and into our heart and actually come from a place of love and understanding. And it's a choice. It is a choice that we get to make. It is the choice to say yes or no to it. It's a choice to react immediately from a place of lack and frustration and stress, or to pause and react from a place of love. And this, again, comes into relationships. It comes into your body, how you react when we're going to go back to my health and wellness journey when I was choosing what to eat and how to work out and how to move my body, overdoing it, honestly, and how I made that choice to do that. And that was coming from a place of lack. It was coming from a place of stress and perfection and people pleasing, when in reality, if I had chosen the path of love, to love myself and love my body like I'm doing now and still actively working on that, I choose differently. I react differently. And I get to start talking to myself internally differently. And I know I've been using a lot of external examples, but think about it actually internally too, is the choice. Like, what if you get to choose to love yourself for who you are and how you are, and you get to act that way, and you get to communicate to yourself, that little voice in your head, in that way. Love is so powerful, and there's so many people now that speak about it, and there's so many different studies, and there's so many different books, and I'm not going to go in the rabbit hole of that, but I just wanted to do this episode. And honestly, the one thing I wanted to get across is that you get to choose love or not to. And it's up to you, and it's not going to be easy. I battle back and forth in my head and in my body so often, which is an okay thing to be doing, because I'm still learning, I'm still growing, I'm evolving, and it's a constant new layer that comes up, getting to show me how I can love myself more and love myself deeper, and a part of me that I never knew was in me, and learning to love that part of me as well. Because life is layers. Life is there's so much depth to it. But love yourself, love your friends, love your family, love your business, love your job, whatever that looks like. And when you come from that place of love, start to see how things change around you. It's not going to be perfect, and I'm not actually asking you to be perfect, but I'm asking you to start with something small. What is one thing in your life? Again, it could be you internally, a piece of you that you want to start working on coming from a loving place. Potentially it's a friendship or a spouse or partner. Maybe it's a business partnership or a collaboration you're working on. Potentially it's a manager or a coworker. It could be one of your employees. How can you start just picking one and coming from a place of love? I didn't really think this is how this series was going to end, to be completely honest, either. And I think it's the perfect place to wrap up the series. I honestly started the series thinking that there was going to be so many other things I went into and so many different paths. And to be honest, the only really things that went the way it did was both the health and wellness and spiritual journey, because I want to open up about myself a little bit more. And I feel like I've gotten to share it with people, and you've gotten to listen to it. Hopefully you've listened to all the episodes. If you haven't listened to the other 4, please go back and listen to the other 4. I had such a fun time recording them because it dug deeper into myself and realizing the choices that I've made in my past and I'm making currently and that I'm going to make into the future, and how important it is. Like, making decisions, making choices is in every part of our day. I mean, honestly, all those thoughts, I don't even remember how many different, like thousands and thousands and thousands of thoughts and things pop into our head, are constantly us getting to make decision or choice to believe it or think it or let go of it or hold on to it. And it's amazing because there's so much of this that one day I would love to dive into even more, to be honest, and share and spread a little bit more of. But this was just something that was on my heart. And it's been amazing, honestly, to like realize over the last, I think it's been about 6 weeks now, that there's multiple what do you call it? Like layovers, where I've talked to somebody else and they've talked about the choice and like the power of it, or I might have said it in a different way. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm doing a series on this right now. Even one of my clients, she's one of my only event clients I still have. And in her keynote that I was sitting there watching and listening to at her event, she talked about choice. And it was so interesting. I sat there and I looked at her. I was like, do you have any idea that I'm in the middle of doing a series about the power of choice? And she was like, no. So it's been so fun. I haven't done a lot of series, so would love to hear from you. 1, what was your biggest takeaway from the last 5 episodes? And 2, do you like these series? Is there something else that you want to hear from me? A specific topic? Is it another series I could go on? I am so excited because I'm going to start bringing more guest episodes back as well. I've kind of been on a pause the last 3-4 months with the momentum in my business and just wanting to be able to pop in, do things. I also have been able to finally hire some support on the podcast side, so helping me get it scheduled and be able to pull some more content from it. So I'm really, really excited to diving deeper, honestly, into the podcast and sharing this with you all and opening up more and more, because I am in the midst of it. I'm, like I said, hiring podcast support. I'm starting to hire team members. I am turning inward so much, but I am choosing myself over and over and over again. And it is the hardest thing, the absolutely hardest thing for me to do, because whether you call it people pleasing or not, I have self-abandoned myself for probably most of my life, at least the last 12 to 15 years. It's just been who I am. And I would get on a really good track maybe again and then wander off. And for the first time, I'm really aware and really trying not to allow myself to wander off, to not go down another path and self-abandon, but to stay true to me and hold my boundaries and prioritize my health and wellness and my spiritual journey, and to really put love first in my life. Because without love, what are we living for? We're living for other people typically, and not in true happiness probably, and excitement for the life and even business we're creating. So I'm excited to be on this journey with you, but please share like your biggest takeaway from the series, from this episode. Please share it with somebody who maybe needs to hear one of these. Again, there's 5 episodes in the series. They all have different meanings and storylines and purposes behind them that could really impact somebody. And I'm so excited to be coming back next week, another solo episode, and finally start rolling out some guest episodes later this month. I appreciate you. I am honored to have you in my world. And I will see you next time on the Success Beyond Strategy podcast.